Hello, my spooky children, and welcome back to another edition of r/Let's Not Meet. I'm your guide, Q, and today we've got some scary stories involving some creepy individuals to get into, so let's just do it. So as usual, I am going to be excluding the titles of these stories. So for context, I work at a coffee shop that opens at 5 a.m., so I typically leave my house to get there around 4:30 a.m. 5 days a week. I park my car in the alleyway where I've reserved parking because it can get hard to park on the street in the city. I've never had any strange instances before, and typically all the homeless or wanderers are kind and mind their own business in the morning. However, this morning was different than usual. I walked down my stairs and got to the back gate, unlocked it, and when I opened it, there was a man probably about 6'5" standing completely still about 15 feet from me. The weird thing was the only thing he was wearing was a long black bed sheet covering his face with a white rope tied around his neck. There were no mouth or eye holes or anything to give me an idea of who this person could be. I'm not even sure how he was breathing okay or even seeing things around him. So, taken aback, I choose to believe this is just a confused person who will mind their own business, so I walked to my car, keeping an eye on him while I walked. He didn't move a muscle and just stood in the middle of the alley facing me. That was until he heard the click of my door handle while I was opening my car. Once he heard that, he started to skip dramatically over to me, exaggerating his motions like a little kid. I closed the door as fast as I could and locked it. Once I was in my car, I looked behind me and he was moving his head back and forth really slowly as if he was looking in my back window. I started to back up, not fast enough to hit him, but fast enough for him to get the idea that I needed to leave and he was making me uncomfortable. He backed up slowly with my car never getting more than a couple inches from it, and finally I had enough room to drive away. As I was leaving, I looked behind me and he was standing completely still in the same spot in the alley as before, completely calm, but before he was just out of view, he raised his hand up as if to wave goodbye and froze again. I'm still not sure what he planned to do or what his intentions were, but sheeted man in the alley, let's not meet again. The way that this is described, I'm really not sure what his intentions were, but it almost sounds like those creepy clowns that were showing up a few years ago, with the main intention of just creeping people out and scaring them with some power fantasy of being able to intimidate someone in that way, because I feel like if somebody actually had nefarious intentions here, or like more nefarious intentions, they would have had a more direct approach instead of just being creepy, but I can't say for sure, and I definitely would have freaked out just as much if I were in the situation. For 6 months last year, I lived in the north of Spain. About a week before I was going to move back to Ireland, my friend and I were at my house having dinner and drinking a little. I was renting an apartment in the city, and my roommate was an older lady, maybe in her 50s. I'm 20. That night, my roommate left to go have dinner with her friends. About a minute after she left, someone buzzed our door to be let into the building. I looked at the camera and didn't recognize the woman. She looked to be in her late 20s to early 30s, so I just assumed it was one of my roommate's friends, and she was coming to meet her or something like that. I buzzed her into the building, assuming they would meet in the lobby. At first, I didn't buzz her in because I didn't recognize her, and she walked away from the door, but then I hit the buzzer as soon as she walked away, and then I, myself, walked away from the camera, meaning I couldn't see if she actually entered or not, assuming that if she didn't enter, she would just call or text my roommate. Boy, was I wrong. This woman came up to my apartment building on the 6th floor. She came up just 2 minutes after my roommate left, so I know she didn't take the stairs, and I know they must have seen each other when my roommate got off the lift and the lady got in. Realizing that this is weird, I do not open the door when she rings it. I look through the peephole just to confirm that it was nobody I knew. At this point, I back away from the door and gesture for my friend to be silent. We creep back into my room, which is at the far side of the apartment, and I begin calling my roommate, who isn't picking up. Meanwhile, the lady is incessantly ringing my door. My roommate is not picking up, and my friend is just telling me to open the door. In her mind, it's a woman, so she must be harmless. I tell her she's an idiot for underestimating females. Women can be criminals too. She keeps telling me to open the door, and I refuse. The door keeps ringing. I keep looking out the peephole. At this point, I understand that if she knew my roommate or was looking for someone specific, she would just call or text them. She didn't take out a phone at all. She just stayed eerily silent, didn't call out any names or ask if anyone was home. This was weird to me. I finally get through to my roommate. She said she wasn't expecting anyone and that she doesn't know anyone in that age range. She asks if I'm okay, and I say I'm fine. Now it's been at least 20 minutes. I know the lady knows someone is home because the lights are on, and my understanding is that's why she's not leaving. I continue watching her through the peephole and see her go into the lift for a minute and then come back out again. The lift is really loud and I would have heard it move. It didn't. She just went in and came out. In my mind, that means someone is in the lift waiting for her. This screams sketchy to me. After about 40 minutes, she leaves. I run to our hall and flick on the outside camera. The lady left the building with 2 men. They all had backpacks on. I will be eternally grateful for trusting my instincts and not listening to my friend. Sometimes it's better to be safe than sorry. Creepy lady with henchmen, let's not meet again. This one is really scary because of how ambiguous it is. I mean, it's just some random lady showing up at the door. Not something you'd normally be freaked out by, but obviously this girl had really, really good instincts, and I can't even imagine what would have happened if she had opened that door. Was it like a human trafficking thing, or some serial killer, or organized crime? I don't even know. It just sounds really freaky, and their intentions were definitely not good. They weren't there to, like, drop off cookies or something. I worked in forest maintenance and forest agriculture for a while. Some friends owned a big plot of land in the Rocky Mountains. A group of us, all guys 18 to 38 years of age, would gather together several times a year, go into the mountains for several days and clear scrub brush, make fire breaks, and, when appropriate, cut Christmas trees. This particular time, it was early spring and our crew of 9 on 3 Gator 4-wheel drive vehicles was at about 9,200 feet elevation. There was a fairly significant amount of snow on the ground. We had put in a long day's work and were headed to camp until the old guy of the crew asked if we wanted to head to the slope. This was a near treeless slope free of any large rocks about 100 yards wide with tracks of big trees on either side. We would go there and, using one of the gators, tow a tube downhill in the snow. It was so much fun. We got to the slope, set up a fire pit, cracked open the whiskey, and started having our fun. We all took several turns being towed. Jeff was the new guy and the youngest, 18. We were giving him the craziest ride, swinging him close to the trees to freak him out, a sort of initiation. It was around 1 a.m., pitch black except for our dying fire and lightly snowing. Not the smartest or safest things I've ever done, but one of the most fun. Just as we were wrapping up one of the last rides and heading back to camp, Jeff freaked out. He was stumbling over his words and couldn't express himself very clearly. But finally we got out of him that about 3/4 of the way down he had seen a man standing a few yards into the woods. He was wearing a trapper's hat, one of those with a flipped up bill and ear flaps like in Fargo, and a plaid mackinaw. We were all a bit skeptical. I mean, we were on a big plot of private property at elevation and in somewhat hostile weather. But we took the rifles off the gators and got our flashlights and gave it a look. We didn't find anything, not even footprints. We chalked it up to inexperience, spooky environment, and of course whiskey, and headed back to camp about 1/8 of a mile away. Jeff didn't sleep all night. He was convinced he saw someone. The next morning, we drove the gators to the house on the property, we got in our trucks and headed into the little town nearby for breakfast. We had our breakfast and were heading back to the property to say our goodbyes and go our separate ways. As we neared the intersection of the public dirt road and the private dirt road to the house, there were several police cars and an ambulance. We stopped to talk to the police, who had informed us that the closest neighbors had found a body in the ditch as they were heading down the mountain. Police had followed in reverse footprints up the hill to the slope and then across a neighboring property to another perpendicular road. They asked if we knew anything, and of course we told them about the Mackinaw Man. Sure enough, it was him. Self-inflicted gunshot probably just minutes after we encountered him. Still don't know what he wanted, if he was a danger to us or if we could have helped. Poor Jeff got his whiskey and meals paid for the next several weeks, but he still gets guff about it to this day. This is a very different sort of Let's Not Meet. I'm not sure if these guys were in danger at all. It's definitely a startling sight to see someone like that, but imagine being the last person to see somebody alive after they did something like that to themselves. It's really, really messed up, and I hope that Jeff got better. As I've mentioned in the past couple videos, there's a channel called QCell uploading all of my old Incel content. I'll leave that linked in the description down below, alongside my Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all of those sorts of things. Come follow me over there if you want more of whatever's going on in my life, or announcements of Twitch streams and stuff like that. It is a good place to stay updated. Alongside as well, my Amazon affiliate links for all of the equipment I use. If you use those links and then do other shopping on Amazon, I also get credit for that, so consider doing that stuff. Regardless, skate on to the best of your abilities, guys. Make sure you're drinking more water, and I hope you have an absolutely terrific day.